Boldwood presents X in the City, written by Portia MacIntosh and read by Karen Cass. The moral right of the author has been asserted. This performance is owned by Boldwood. Chapter 1. Come on, Nicole. Smile, Robert the photographer insists. Cheer up. It might never happen. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. I can't even imagine what the look on my face is going to say in this one. I wince. I hate that phrase, cheer up. It might never happen. It's one of those phrases you only ever really hear men say to women, and I can't imagine it ever being all that well received. With phrases like that being barked at me, when I'm trying my best to relax, I'm not going to be able to muster up anything beyond a Mona Lisa smile. It's strange how I never quite get used to this. You would just know Robert was a photographer the second you laid eyes on him. Robert, who must be in his 40s, is clearly an arty type, the kind of guy you would expect to see clutching a vintage camera in one hand while sipping espresso outside a Parisian cafe with the other. His flowing brown hair, streaked with a few strands of silver, is twisted into a bun that sits on the top of his head. Still, he likes to whip his head as though he's moving loose strands from his eyes. It must be a force of habit. But it all adds to this air of snobbery he's not only exuding, it feels as though he's actively fostering it. Rowan, put your arm around her, show the world how in love you are, Robert demands as he pushes his round-rimmed tortoiseshell glasses up his nose. Rowan, who is standing next to me, looks at me for a second before doing as he is told. I shuffle slightly, trying to find a comfortable position with his arm across my back, his hand squeezing my shoulder. And children, if you could stand a little closer to Mother, he continues. Nicole, put her hand on the smallest one's shoulder. Ned, the smallest one, stares at me. Go on, Rowan encourages him with a smile. Ned, who is 5, is standing in front of me, while Archie, who is 8, is standing in front of his dad. We're all standing in our kitchen, in front of the bifold doors that open out into the back garden, but it's hard to feel at home right now. These photos are to show what a happy family you are. Smile, Robert reminds us all. The loved-up couple, the beautiful kids, the big house, the dream. Rowan looks so relaxed for the camera, so effortlessly handsome. He's a lifestyle influencer, making a living through sponsored content and ads on his videos. He made a name for himself as one of those gymfluencer types. You know the guys, the ones posting photos from the gym, but has evolved his brand into something more family-friendly these days. He went viral years ago when someone took a photo of him with his shirt off, hanging off the monkey bars at the playgroup with the kids, while a bunch of mums sat on a nearby bench, all gawping at his abs. He was dubbed Hot Dad, and ever since he's focused on making family content, showing what a happy life he lives, how he entertains his kids, how he renovates his huge house in picture-perfect suburbia. For his male followers, his content is aspirational. They want to be him, to live his life, to copy his style. As for his female followers, well, the fact that he's handsome and posts a lot of shirtless photos doesn't hurt. Rowan is a really good-looking guy. It was his good looks that caught my attention on the day we met. He has short, wavy brown hair that he always neatly blows back, bright blue eyes, and a jaw so sharp it could cut glass. You can tell that he takes care of himself, that he moisturizes his skin and conditions his hair, and that he goes to the gym every day. Even his perfectly formed muscles have muscles. That's the kind of shape he's in. But while it was his looks that caught my eye, it was his personality that stole my heart. At 37, he's a few years older than me, but his maturity was another thing that appealed to me. He seemed so kind, so caring, so family-orientated, and that's exactly what I wanted. A nice quiet life with a man I loved and a happy family, ideally in a beautiful home in a lovely part of the country. Perfect smiles, boys. Good work, Robert tells the kids. Growing up with a dad whose entire life is on social media has turned them into naturals. They're so at home with the camera, so used to all of their big moments being documented. I always joke that Ned, who is naturally accident-prone, didn't break his first bone until he was on camera, given that he'd taken so many tumbles without a scratch, prior to breaking his leg as Rowan filmed him running through a field. I, on the other hand, have never been great in the spotlight. Still, I am part of this circus, and as such, I seem to have gathered a bit of a following, as Rowan's mumfluencer counterpart. Although to me, Instagram is just for fun, not a place for my content. But as an extension of Rowan, people seem to want to follow me, to see what I'm doing, to access all areas of our dream life. I might be able to keep my own account private, but on Rowan's, I'm part of the cast of characters. It's not my day job, though. I have a real job. Sometimes it feels like I'm the only person in this village who does. Little Harehill isn't really the sort of village where people have jobs, especially not the... Which is ironic, because it is so expensive to live here. It's basically the kind of place you move to have a family and a big house, if you don't want to live in central London, or even if you do want to, but you want to have a big house with a nice garden that doesn't cost £30 million, and the kind of place where everyone is competing with everyone, whether they want to or not. Oh, look at you all. So beautiful, so happy. The world will be so jealous. Robert practically sings as he snaps away. Yes, because that's the goal. Rowan squeezes me and I can't help but squirm again. A picture might be worth 1,000 words, and this might look like a picture-perfect life, but don't believe everything you see online. Things here are far from perfect. But not today, not in this photo at least. Chapter 2. I always joke that you can tell how much a private school costs by how excessive the uniforms are. Here at Little Harehill School, where the boys go, not only are straw hats part of the official get-up, but girls aren't even allowed to tie their hair up with anything other than the official school scrunchie, which comes in their chosen shade of forest green. Perhaps it's good for kids to be given such strict uniform rules to adhere to, but at such a young age it feels excessive to me. When I was Ned's age, I probably spent many of my school days with ketchup in my hair because I was forever accidentally dipping my unruly long blonde locks in my dinner. To be honest with you, this still happens sometimes, and I'm 34 now. The school building, a towering stone structure that looks like it's been plucked from the pages of a novel set in Victorian times, is the kind of place where the PTA meetings have a menu and the tea is served in porcelain cups. The actual teaching of the actual children feels like a really small part of what we've got going on here. For the parents of Little Harehill, aka the land of perfectly pruned hedges and extravagantly landscaped gardens, socialising, partying, and, most importantly, having an arena for competing against one another appears to be far more important. And it isn't just about parents competing over who has the most impressive child. Oh no, that's such a small part of the middle-class Olympics. Medals are also up for grabs for who has the most expensive car, the biggest house, and bizarrely, and in a completely sexist way, who has either the youngest wife or the wealthiest husband. I shift my weight back and forth between my feet as I loiter in the playground, trying to avoid making eye contact with anyone as I wait for a... Honestly, you run out of things to talk about every day, twice a day, as you stand out here with the same people who are all just wanting to get on with their day too. And then it's home with the boys for more repetitiveness, as we have the inevitable 20-minute conversation about what dinner they're both willing to eat this evening. Honestly, they change their minds about what foods they like and what foods they consider to be poison all the time, which would be fine, but they never seem to like the same things at the same time. Kids are like mood rings, changing on a whim, due to some unknown but teeny-tiny variable. They're either the sweetest boys or, if I'm allowed to say this about kids, the biggest dickheads. They're kind of like their dad in that respect. I notice all of the usual suspects lining up alongside me, mostly au pairs, because even the mums that don't work don't always pick the kids up, although they more than make up for it by being incredibly full-on in other ways. There's very much a mummy club, one I suspect I will never truly infiltrate, but it seems like a full-time job. To be honest, I think it's my actual full-time job that keeps me from becoming a fully fledged member, but the constant coffee mornings, party planning committees, the gathering to judge people and look down their noses at them. Felicia Hickman painted her front door pink last year, and I don't think anyone has forgiven her yet. It's not the kind of stuff I have time for in both respects. But then, amidst the sea of frazzled-looking nannies, I spot a woman in her 30s, smiling warmly, far too warmly for a cold, miserable day like today. She seems like she's smiling at me, her eyes friendly as they lock onto mine. She looks at me as though she knows me. I don't think I've ever seen her before in my life. Not wanting to be impolite, and just in case I have met her, but for some reason seem to have forgotten about it, I flash a friendly grin back at her. Interestingly, she takes this as an invitation and starts to make her way over. "Hi, I'm Lisa," she says, her voice as warm and welcoming as her smile. "Nice to meet you. I'm Nicole," I reply. "Sorry, I know this is weird, but I feel like I know you," Lisa continues. I cock my head curiously, studying her face carefully. Lisa looks like she's in her early 30s, the same sort of age as me, but otherwise, I still can't find any familiarity in her face. She's tall, distinctively so, with long, glossy red hair. She makes a good impression that I can't imagine forgetting. "Lots of people around here know Rowan Nutter, my partner," I suggest, because everyone in the village knows and adores Rowan. "And we all see Nicole," Suzanne, one of the au pairs, pipes up, joining the conversation out of nowhere, keen to help solve the mystery. Lisa's brow furrows as she visibly racks her brains. "No, it's not that," Lisa replies, sighing lightly. Weird. Perhaps you just have one of those faces. I could have sworn I knew you. Maybe in another life, hey?" "Maybe," I reply with a smile. "Either way, it's lovely to meet you." "Yeah, I don't usually pick the kids up," she begins to explain. "We're new to the area, and the au pair usually—" I try to focus on what Lisa is saying, but my brain wanders off. Lisa and I are around the same age, but she has a local accent. The same London suburb yummy mummy accent everyone has here apart from me, and I grew up nearly 200 miles away in Leeds, so it's not like we crossed paths when we were much younger. But there are lots of years between when we were kids and now, and that's what is worrying me. That and her choice of words, that perhaps we knew one another in another life, because I did very much used to live another life. One worlds away from the one I'm living now, and I've not only worked really hard to put it behind me, but I've done everything in my power to keep this lot, the village locals, who will get their pitchforks out for next to nothing, from finding out about it. I wonder if Lisa knew me back then, if our paths crossed, or if she maybe saw me somewhere at some point, somewhere I probably shouldn't have been. Whatever the explanation, if she did know me back in the day, I need to do whatever it takes to keep her from remembering. The last thing I need is for my new friends, or Rowan for that matter, to be introduced to the old Nicole. Here's hoping my secret is still safe, for now. Chapter 3. As I wake up, my body instinctively stretches out in my bed. Slowly, I begin to open my eyes, allowing them to adjust to the light, my senses not quite awake yet. But something feels off, and then my legs collide with someone else's, and as I squint through my tired eyes, I realise that I am not alone in my bed. I panic, obviously not expecting anyone else to be under the covers with me, as my body deliberates, fight or flight. My heart beats so fast, it feels like it might burst. So does my face, as I realise I'm holding my breath. But then, as I allow myself a moment to focus, I realise it's just Rowan, and I settle down, but not quite all the way. "Rowan?" I say, practically gasping for air, semi-relieved to see that it's him.
"Shh, relax," Rowan insists. "It's Mother's Day. The boys wanted to bring you breakfast in bed."
"What?" I reply in disbelief. "So what, you get in bed with me while I'm sleeping?"
"They wanted to wake you up with breakfast, and I don't want them catching wind of the fact we no longer sleep in the same bed. It makes sense that I'm in here," he explains. "Come on, Nicole. You're lucky they even want to do this."
Wow. In one sentence, he's managed to make me feel guilty about two things. Firstly, the fact that we no longer share a bedroom, and secondly, that I am not really Archie and Ned's mum. "You could have woken me up without getting in bed with me," I point out.
"Oh, come on, Nicole, let them have their moment," Rowan insists. "Don't let how you're currently feeling about me ruin this for them."
He uses the word currently as though my feelings are likely to change, but I really can't see that happening. He's well and truly done it this time. Archie and Ned shuffle into the room, their faces beaming with pride, and I can't help but smile. Archie carries a tray with a cold-looking cup of tea on it. Not that I want to see an 8-year-old navigating boiling water, which he balances with so much careful concentration it almost looks as though he is more likely to spill it. Meanwhile, Ned hands me a bowl containing what appears to be a combination of several different cereals, a mishmash including bran flakes and Cocoa Pops, which I can't imagine going all that well together, although adding anything to bran flakes has to improve them, surely. As I look at the breakfast they've prepared, I bite my lip, trying not to laugh. It's a cold cup of tea and a bowl of congealed cereals, but they've clearly put thought and effort into it, and their happy expressions are too adorable to disappoint. Plus, I know they're only young, and I'm not even sure how well they remember their mum, given that Ned wasn't even 1 when she passed away. But days like today must be hard for them. I'll eat every bite. "Wow, thank you, boys," I say with genuine gratitude as I pick up a spoon and take a cautious mouthful. The varying tastes and textures mean that there is a lot going on in each bite. Sometimes it works, sometimes it really doesn't. I think it's when I catch something like a Weetabix with a Honey Monster puff and a sprinkling of Cocoa Pops that it's a bit of an overload. I take a big swig of tea to clear my palate. Archie, even at the age of 8, looks like a miniature version of Rowan. He has inherited Rowan's dark, tousled hair, and his eyes mirror Rowan's, with that almost cold shade of blue. He has his dad's adventurous spirit too, as well as his boundless energy for all activity. He's already so sporty, and I know Rowan is keen to get him into playing several sports more seriously as he gets older. Ned, on the other hand, is the baby of the family at 5 years old. He has that classic blonde baby hair that frames his cute rounded face. His eyes are bright and expressive, and he's interested in absolutely everything. So he's always picking things up, asking questions, and being read to might just be his favourite thing. I smile brightly back at them, my heart warmed by their gesture. "Thank you, boys. You've made my day," I tell them. Archie, with his mini Rowan demeanour, leans forward, his curiosity getting the better of him. "Do you like your breakfast?" he asks, his eyes fixed on mine. I've never dated a man with kids before. It is strange, seeing these small, cute versions of him around all the time, so sweet and innocent, but so easy for said man to use as a shield in all sorts of situations, it turns out. I nod, trying to maintain a straight face, despite the bizarre combination of cereals. Thankfully, my expression doesn't betray me. "It's delicious, Archie," I tell him. "You guys make the best breakfast." "Is it better than the breakfast Daddy makes?" Ned asks, his blonde locks bouncing as he tilts his head inquisitively. Ha! Not that Daddy ever makes any of the meals in this house, not unless it's some dumb Instagram thing someone is paying him to film himself cooking,
But even then, that's never anything the kids or even I want to eat. Oh, absolutely, I reply. In fact, I think you guys should start making breakfast for Daddy. Rowan grins at my suggestion. He knows it can't be as nice as I'm making it out to be. I hope he also knows that there is no combination of cereal known to man that he could eat that would make me forgive him for what he's done.
Okay, boys, how about we give Nicole her present?
Rowan suggests, his voice packed with excitement. The boys cheer, excited too, so I smile and do my best to seem like everything is okay. I'm doing all of this for myself and for the boys because we shouldn't have to suffer just because Rowan is a wanker.
Nicole, put this on,
Rowan instructs, his voice a mixture of anticipation and excited impatience as he throws me my dressing gown.
And meet us downstairs. We'll go make sure your present is ready.
I raise an eyebrow. Okay, I say simply. I get out of bed, as I'm told, but instead of throwing on my dressing gown, I grab a pair of trackies and a hoodie from... I just don't feel comfortable here anymore. This doesn't feel like my house. I don't feel like I can walk around in a dressing gown. My bedroom, the one I used to share with Rowan before everything went tits up, is a room that I worked long and hard on. I redecorated it myself with contemporary panelling, trendy muted tones, new furniture and a large bed at its centre. I wanted to make the ultimate bedroom, a tranquil space, somewhere that guaranteed a good night's sleep. And I succeeded. I made it perfect. But I soon found out that you can make the room as perfect as you like, but you will still find that you have very little control over what goes on inside it. Now it's simply a reminder of what used to be, a space that once felt like ours, but now hardly feels like mine. And with my plan being to move out as soon as the mess Rowan made is cleared up, soon it won't be mine at all. I'll never sleep in it again. I'll no longer be able to dig my toes into the plush rug as I read in the snuggler chair I deliberated over for weeks because I wanted to make sure I got one that was perfect for both of us. And while, yes, I could take the chair and the rug with me when I eventually leave, I don't actually know where I will be going when I do move out, so I can't exactly plan to take the furniture with me. I wind my long blonde locks into a messy bun on the top of my head, take a deep breath, and leave the sanctuary of my bedroom. Right now, it's the one space where Rowan isn't usually allowed, the one place where I can drop the act. But out here, in the hallway, in the rest of the house, in the rest of the world even, it's all about keeping up appearances. The show must go on, and I'm the leader of this particular shit show. The ringmaster in the circus that is my life. And just when I thought I'd finally put my silly, messy days behind me and that I could live a normal life, happy ever after. I step out onto the landing. It's a large space with a polished wooden floor that gleams in the soft lighting coming in from the south-facing, floor-to-ceiling window. Even on a cold March day like today, the room is flooded with natural light, which is something I'm really going to miss about living here. 4 bedrooms branch off from the landing, and with 2 more bedrooms up another flight of stairs, we call the top floor the kids' floor, and more bathrooms than we could possibly use, the house feels so big and kind of empty. It's as though, since my and Rowan's relationship went sour, the love that filled the rooms is gone, leaving cold open spaces in its wake. Still, there's always the natural light, and even on the dark days it keeps me here, pushing on, until I can make things right. The grand staircase is the centrepiece of the house, winding elegantly from the landing, its mahogany banister curving ever so smoothly as the steps themselves are made of rich, dark wood, covered with a cream carpet that runs down the centre. Most of the steps creak as you step on them, because this is an old house, and no amount of trendy paint colours or smart lighting can remove decades and decades of memories from a well-used staircase. It survived the renovation. It's too beautiful to replace, even if a new one might be silent, with a glass balustrade that would be far easier to take care of. As corny as it sounds, this staircase is kind of like my relationship with Rowan now. It looks perfect,
but get too close and you'll see how broken and tired it is. I almost lovingly glide my hand down the banister as I head downstairs, as though I'm going to miss it, hoping that Rowan will care for its wood like I have been doing for the coming up to 3 years I've been living here. Happy for a bit more than 2 of them, so it's not so bad. As I reach the bottom of the stairs, I find Rowan and the boys eagerly waiting for me by the front door.
Are you ready?
Rowan asks excitedly. I am, I reply, mustering up as much enthusiasm as I can as I pull on my Ugg boots.
Okay, boys. Let's do it,
Rowan announces. He practically throws open the large front doors and the boys charge out. Rowan hangs back for me, and as the 2 of us walk outside together, my jaw drops. There, parked on our front driveway, is a shiny white Porsche wrapped up in a red ribbon with the biggest golden bow I've ever seen stuck to the bonnet, like some kind of extreme hood ornament.
Happy Mother's Day,
Rowan practically sings as he snaps a photo of my reaction on his phone. Christ, no doubt that will be on his Instagram later. He's bought me a car. Why the hell has he bought me a car? Do you like it? Archie asks me, probably puzzled by my seemingly muted but actually stunned reaction. I love it, I tell them, turning on my smile, running over to give them both a big hug. Rowan takes another photo. Sorry, I'm just in shock, I tell them. I really do love it. It's gorgeous. It's just such a surprise.
We just wanted to show you how much we love and appreciate you,
Rowan says as he crashes our hug, wrapping us all up in his big arms. Let's get in, Archie says. Yeah, Ned says, hot on his heels. Rowan keeps his arm around me for a moment and lowers his voice.
I want to show you how much I love you,
he adds, keeping the smile firmly fixed on his face. I smile, ever so slightly, keeping up the act for the boys, but with no idea what else to say or do. A car. A fucking car. He knows we're over. He knows I'm moving out just as soon as I can, and yet he's buying me a car? Like a car can fix what he's done? Ha! Not even a Porsche, buddy. I'm not accepting it. In fact, I'm not even going to drive it. Not even once. Except... Where is my car? I ask, rather naively, because I've no sooner asked the question than the answer has occurred to me.
This is your car,
Rowan insists. I stare at him expectantly, not saying another word until he gives me a real answer.
I got rid of it, obviously,
Rowan replies.
Well, you don't need it now.
You have a Porsche.
The other mums are going to be so jealous.
And where is your car? I ask, realising his Jag is nowhere to be seen.
I'm picking it up tomorrow morning, he tells me. While I was getting the, paintwork cleaned, I thought I might as well get a valet and a service. Don't worry, I know you'll be taking the kids to school, so I'll get a taxi.
OK, so maybe I am going to have to drive it. For fuck's sake! Why on earth would he think that with the way things are between us, swapping my car for this new one would be something I would respond well to? And that comment about making the other mums jealous? I hate being lumped in with the mums. Why can't I make the men jealous? Why do I need to make anyone jealous? Why can't we all just have, what we've worked hard for, and enjoy it? Why does life in this stupid village have to be a competition? And of course I moved in with the most competitive man here. I know what you're thinking. I sound like an ungrateful cow because someone just bought me a Porsche and I'm whining. But you don't know what I've been through. Yes, OK, he's trying to make things right, I suppose, and that's something. But it's just not going to work, unfortunately. The damage is already done. Chapter 4. Do you ever have one of those days where you think, I know, I'll do some sorting out,
but then you totally pull everything out of place in the room you plan to sort, only to find yourself amongst the mess, sitting in the middle of the floor, thinking to yourself, why did I do this? When will I learn that when I think the mood is striking where I want to have a big clear out and clean out, I don't actually want that at all, and I would do well to just wait for the feeling to pass? It's never worth opening up a messy box because you're only going to have to sort it out to get it all back inside. Surrounded by a sea of things that I know I'll have to pack when the time comes for me to move out. It's a strange sensation, knowing that I'm basically living here on borrowed time now. And naturally, knowing this means that my patience for all the silly village formalities isn't what it used to be. The endless brunch meetings and coffee mornings with the yummy mummies no longer feel all that important to endure. After all, they won't be my problem for much longer. It's an unstated but widely known fact that only families fit their wanky social aesthetic. So, if pretty soon I'm going to be alone, just me, no Rowan, no kids, none of them are going to have time for me anyway. So I'm pretty much checked out. Unless it's something for the boys, of course, and then I'll be there with bells on. One thing I'm certain of in all of this mess is that I want to make sure the boys will be okay when I'm not around anymore. I may have only been their mother-type figure for a couple of years or so, but I love them. As I sort through my belongings, I spot one of the boxes that I pulled out of the cupboard. I say spot, but if I'm being honest, I know deep down that the only reason I'm even sorting my things to begin with is because I want to open this particular box. Ever since Lisa potentially recognised me at the school gates, my old life has been on my mind, and deep diving into this box of memories has been all I could think about. But opening this box is about more than simply opening a box, because it opens up so much more than the cardboard. It's about unlocking a compartment in my mind that I usually keep tightly locked, but every now and then something small wiggles its way in, prying open the door, and I allow myself a moment to gaze into my old life and think about what could have been before slamming the box shut and returning to reality. And just like that, it's in front of me, and I'm opening it up and taking out the first item, a copy of a magazine. My magazine. I was fresh out of uni when I started Starstruck, a music magazine, one that I wanted to be different from all the other music mags out at the time. Back then, when I was in my early 20s, I had lots of friends who were in bands, and so I wanted the magazine to be something more personal than the gossipy pieces I was used to reading. I wanted it to feel like it was made by the fans, for the fans, with a dose of insider info you just didn't get anywhere else. Yes, I was a journalist, but that almost felt like it came second to what I really was. I was practically one of the band when I was on tour, part of the family even, with the bands that I was especially close with. I loved nothing more than disappearing on tour for days at a time, getting to live that rock star life, but not actually. That said, that never seems to hold most gigging musicians back. Often I would be there under the guise of writing a review or doing an interview, but the reality is that those things rarely took more than an hour, and the truth is that I was there because I wanted to be, and because people wanted me there too. God, I loved it. I lived for it. Just counting down the days until the next time I could jump on that tour bus and head off with my friends. It's funny, I think everyone thought I was some kind of groupie, given that there were a handful of bands I was on touring terms with. But we really were a family. Everyone had their roles, and I loved being the usually only steady female influence on board. If the tour manager was the daddy, the one in charge, telling everyone what to do, keeping everyone in check, then I was the mummy, the soft touch, the one who cared for the guys when they were drunk rather than yelling at them. I like to think that's why I know what I'm doing with Archie and Ned, despite not being their mum, because I had a lot of practice with much bigger kids. Rock stars made kids seem quite easy to take care of. The next thing I pull out is another magazine. This one from a later date, when my little magazine was taken under the wing of a tabloid newspaper, the Daily Scoop, after I made the move from Leeds to London and I started writing it for them to give away as a supplement with their paper. I have every copy at my parents' house in Leeds, but in this box of memories, I keep 2 magazines, one from our humble beginnings and one from when we hit the big time. I wish I'd known, when I made the change, that it would be the beginning of the end. There are all sorts of things in this box, signed CDs, plectrums and drumsticks given to me by various musicians after their shows. I could probably clean up on eBay, and I may well need to when I'm out on my arse here, but the thing I'm looking for, the main reason I'm opening this box, is for the photos. Yes, I know I sound like I am 1,000 years old, but it was still cool, although only just about, to take a disposable camera around with you back then, and even when we made the switch to digital, it didn't feel right, not printing them out, not holding the photos in your hands to look through them or put them on the walls. It's funny because these days, we pretty much accept that all of our photos are just data that we push around in the digital world. I'll take pictures on my phone, post them to Instagram, and then leave them to live happily in the cloud. I miss having real photos when I realise that. I pull the photos out, and the first thing I see are pictures from the last time I toured with Two for the Road. Wow, you never hear of them anymore. They were one of those bands who got way too big, way too fast. There was Eddie, the sexy frontman, a guy who had so much charisma, he needed multiple girlfriends to help him manage it. Well, when I say girlfriends, I don't mean that they were his girlfriends, although more often than not they were someone else's. Then there was Ben, the guitarist, Mark, the bassist, and then Luke, the drummer. I hold my breath for a moment as I look at a photo of me and Luke, him with his arm around my waist, as we both pose for a photo in some dimly lit, grubby backstage room. I had the biggest crush on Luke for years and years, and I never thought he would ever like me back, until one tour, when Two for the Road were just starting to hit the big time, when he told me that he felt the same way. It took us a while to get together, thanks to all sorts of reasons, but eventually we did. I actually lived with him in London for a little while when I first moved there. That's the first time I felt like I was getting my happy ever after. I thought I had a good job at a big newspaper, a cool flat where I lived with my boyfriend and our dog. But it was actually Buddy, my chihuahua, who lasted the longest out of all of the above. He sadly passed away last year, but having him in my life for a decade made everything feel so much easier. All of the bad times feel better when you have a dog around. Someone who loves you unconditionally. Something to care for when you don't even feel like caring for yourself. Luke Fox, on the other hand, was a different kind of dog. I thought he was great. He was there for me when I needed him, and I stood by him through his problems with drugs, and when we were out the other side of it all, I thought that was it. The bad stuff was behind us. It was all going to be okay. However, the first tour he went on without me, it turned out that he not only loved doing drugs more than he loved me, but he loved doing random groupies even more than he loved doing drugs. He's not so much my one that got away, more the one I was lucky to get away from. Honestly, it was a really strange moment when my editor thought it would be a good idea for me to be the person who broke the story about him. It was therapeutic, in a way, and deeply traumatic in others. Ah well, good riddance to that lot. They were all dirtbags anyway. So were most bands back then. Definitely all of the ones that I knew or had to work with. I flicked through more photos, looking at my younger self, seeing how happy I looked. We all thought we were so cool back then, that we were living the dream, that our lifestyle was this amazing thing that everyone else wished they had. Looking back now, we weren't living the dream at all. It was a nightmare at times. Things that seemed so normal at the time are so obviously in this day and age, with so many people coming forward to expose their past bad experiences with celebrities, I often see people asking the question, why didn't they say anything sooner? Honestly, I was there, and believe me when I say that none of us realised that we actually could. The things I experienced, or that I saw, were all things that we were made to feel were normal. It was just a given that the rich, handsome celebrity was going to pick someone to go back to his hotel room, and you were supposed to hope you'd be chosen as the lucky one. Oftentimes, things didn't even feel like a choice you were making. It was just the done thing, and everyone made you feel like you were so fortunate to be there. That's the thing, when you're in a bad situation, but you can see so many girls so willing to take your place. It tricks your brain into thinking that maybe things aren't bad, maybe you're just being silly. My blood boils when I think of some of the men I encountered back then, and some of the stories I heard from others, and I'm so happy that people are being called out now. I find one picture in particular of me and Luke, and I can tell from the state of him that he was fresh out of the hospital, an accident courtesy of his drug problem, and we're both smiling like we're on top of the world. And I just want to grab that poor girl and hug her and take her away from it all. I went through so much, so young, and if I ever have kids, I would hate to think of them experiencing the same. It wasn't all bad memories. Sure, there are lots of them dotted along the timeline, but when things were good, they were great. I had so much fun. I've probably forgotten more than I remember, and I made the kind of memories that most people don't get the chance to. I remember back when I was at school and I was first getting into music in a big way, assuming we don't count how obsessed I was with the Spice Girls back in the 90s. I would put posters on my walls and lie on my bed listening to albums on my allegedly portable CD player, which seems laughably unportable compared to the iPod I eventually got for my 16th birthday, and I would fantasize, dreaming up all these different scenarios, imagining them playing out like movies in my head. I would think about my favourite bands, me going to see them, my favourite band member spotting me in the crowd, picking me, a socially awkward teenage mosher still in school, out of a sea of other dorky teenage girls, him totally falling for me, despite him being rich, famous, and, ultimately, able to get any girl he wanted. I would think about touring with them, being on the bus, hanging out backstage at their shows. I never thought, in a million years, that any of it would happen. I made it. I got myself there. It's funny, when I was a kid I would look at photos of my parents and cringe at their outfits. I could never get my head around how painfully uncool they were, how they must have known at the time that they looked like dorks with their silly hairstyles and their not at all stylish clothing. Now, however, I am willing to admit that they may well have been the height of style and coolness at the time, because I am looking at pictures that span enough years to see the same in myself. I mean, come on, there's a whole chunk of time where I wore what was basically a school uniform, for fun. Even if I wasn't in full fake school uniform, I still loved a tie. When I was at school, I would whinge about having to wear my dull uniform every day, but then I would wear fashion ties basically all of the time. In fact, if I remember rightly, I used to wear ties on non-uniform days, except I would pair them with enormously oversized baggy jeans, the kind that completely hide your feet, and whatever Tammy Girl fishnet top I had recently acquired. I remember a time when I used to go to this tattoo and piercing place, and what I really wanted was to get cool tattoos and a nose ring, and an eyebrow bar, and maybe my lip done. But I was of course too scared, and my mum and dad would have killed me, so instead I used to get these rainbow-coloured hair extensions done there. It was just some guy with a glue gun who would attach these brightly coloured pieces of rainbow. These days, I won't blow-dry my hair without using heat protection spray, and back then I was letting random guys put glue in my hair. I'm not quite sure if wearing a pair of jeans under a dress with a seriously tacky belt is better or worse, and if I were to try to say something nice about the emo fringe that I rocked for a while, you know, the big thick one that swept in from the side and made it impossible to see where you were going, at least it covered my eyebrows. My eyebrows over the years went on a real journey, and not a nice one like a holiday, a chaotic one like Lord of the Rings. Eventually